Hey NFL fans, for any Chicago Bears fans out there, we have a Bears-only YouTube channel. The link is right there, youtube.com/BearsNow for Chicago Bears coverage all year long, including this Bears video of the week. Welcome into Chicago Bears Now. Today's show is presented by Manscaped. Go to manscaped.com/chat. They got the best men's grooming kit out there. Trust me, we'll talk more about that later on in the show. Promo code chat, get you 20% off. Nick Foles is now in town. Those two guys are set to duel things out once training camp officially begins. Matt Nagy has made it clear that a competition has not begun over Zoom. Like, that's just not practical. That's not the way they're going to do things. So until they get on the field at Hallis Hall, which we'll discuss training camp news later on in the show, there's no competition starting until that point. But I fully expect it to be an open competition. I think Nick Foles has the leg up because you don't trade for a guy with a decent amount of money on his contract unless you believe there's a decent chance that he's going to be your quarterback. Trubisky would get a shot. They spent a number 2 overall pick on him a few years ago, but I think there are concerns from the Bears side of things whether or not he's their long-term answer, hence to why they declined his 5th-year option. All right, guys, we're almost at 9,000 subs, 120 away as we film this video. How about you help us get there? Can we get there on this video alone? Let's try and get to 9,000 and then zoom on past and get to 10,000 as well. We continue to grow at a rapid pace here. We can only do it with your help. Go ahead and hit that big red subscribe button. Share that link below with a friend. It's youtube.com/BearsNow. Speaking of Nick Foles, could he be the comeback player of the year? I think there's an okay chance. FanDuel released their odds of comeback player of the year. He's number 9 out of their top 10 odds to win it, so not super high on the list, but I think there's a chance, right? Because he only played in 4 games last year, dealt with a broken collarbone, got benched for Gardner Minshew. So if he were to return, win the starting job, and lead the Bears to the playoffs, he would have a reasonable chance of winning because last year he just was not good even when he did play. The completion percentage was fine, but everything else was low. He didn't throw for a lot of touchdowns in the 4 games. QBR well below the average standard of 50 out of 100. He was at 33.6. So he's got to play better than this if he's going to win this job and lead the Bears to the playoffs. Now, here are the comeback player of the year odds. Ben Roethlisberger at plus 250. This makes sense, right? He missed all of last season. The Steelers did not play as well. If he comes back, leads them to the playoffs, he's going to be a high candidate. Gronkowski, retired, comes back. If he has a big year, that makes sense as well. J.J. Watt missed a lot of time. Cam Newton missed most of the season. A.J. Green missed all last season. So there's a pretty consistent theme here of players who missed last season. Matt Stafford next. He didn't miss a huge chunk of the year, but he missed some time. Alex Smith, I'm not convinced he's even playing. Latest chatter there is that he's still not fully recovered from that gruesome leg injury. Andy Dalton, I don't really get this one. He's not going to start over Dak. But then you got Nick Foles and Myles Garrett, who obviously had that on-field issue with Mason Rudolph. So Nick Foles, 9th best odds, or I guess really tied for 7th there with Smith and Andy Dalton to win the comeback player of the year. We'll see if he can win the job and at least play at a high level. If he wins comeback player of the year, that's probably a pretty good thing for the Chicago Bears. All right, guys, I told you about today's sponsor. It is Manscaped. You can get the Lawnmower 3.0 on sale for 20% off when you use promo code chat. Guys, you know, it may not be the most comfortable thing to talk about, but if you want to clean things up down below, protect the family jewels, you got to do it with Manscaped. I never found a good tool until Manscaped and the Lawnmower 3.0 to be specific because everything I tried before left me with razor burn, so I was just like, screw it. I'm not even going to worry about it. But now with this thing, the Lawnmower 3.0, I am taken care of. It's smooth down there. I'm good to go. My significant other, she likes it as well. So go to manscaped.com/chat. Get that 20% off. The Lawnmower 3.0, it's the best men's grooming tool out there. Trust me on that one. All right, the Bears did pick up some cap space, clear $2.8 million because Trey Burton was designated as a post-June 1 cut, so that money is now officially off the books, that $2.8 million. So they're up to about $11 million in cap space. Now, they still have to sign their rookie draft picks, but since they didn't have a first-round pick, that's only expected to be $5 or $6 million. So the Bears got $5-6 million to work with in free agency, and I still think there's areas they could go to in terms of bringing a player or two in to help at least provide some depth at some positions. I look at these 5 players as some potential options for the Chicago Bears in free agency. Larry Warford, obviously. look, if you can get him at $6 or $7 million, yeah, it's a little bit more than you want to because you would have to clear some more cap space, but I think that's worth it. You're almost at that number where you could pay him $7 million. Jason Peters is still out there. Would he come play for the Bears? Maybe. I'm not so sure. I would at least call his agent, Devonta Freeman, if they want a vet running back next to David Montgomery and Tariq Cohen. Tony Jefferson, who we've talked about. Tremaine Johnson, if you want to take some pressure off Jalen Johnson and get a proven veteran corner there, I think that's an option. And I think all these players you can get at a fairly cheap cost. Now, Warford's going to cost a decent penny. Peters might as well, but if you can get them at the right price, I think it's definitely worth it. And that Trey Burton post-June 1 cut clears some more money, makes some of these options truly available. Who should the Bears sign in free agency? Doesn't have to be one of those players. Lots of big names out there. If you say Jadeveon Clowney, then at least give me a legitimate path to doing that because they don't have the cap space for that right now. So if you're going to do someone like that, like Everson Griffin, go ahead and explain how that happens. All right, Ted Ginn, can he step up? Sports Illustrated put an article out saying the Bears basically haven't replaced Taylor Gabriel. Do I agree with that? I'm not so sure. Now, I don't know if Ginn by himself can replace his production, but I think Ginn can be 75% of what Gabriel was. I don't think that's completely unreasonable. Sure, he's 35 now. The article pointed out some points that most receivers post-age of 35, they just don't put up major seasons. Only a handful of guys have had 30-plus catches after their age 35 season. Ginn had exactly 30 last year, so that might be around the border of what he can give you this year. Now, you compare him to Taylor Gabriel side by side. Obviously, he had a little bit more production, but Gabriel only played in 9 games last year. So, obviously, if he played in 16, he would have had a much bigger year than Ted Ginn. But I think Ginn can come in here, catch 30 to 35 passes, and give you 500 yards. I think that's possible. Now, maybe he's not Gabriel on his own, but you got Darnell Mooney in the draft. You've got Javon Wims, Riley Ridley. I think the combination of some of these depth pieces can certainly help fill the void of losing Taylor Gabriel. And I think Anthony Miller is going to take a step forward this year. So I don't think losing Taylor Gabriel is a huge detriment. Plus, you got to keep in mind, too, the Bears have 2 at least average to above average tight ends now in Jimmy Graham and Cole Kmet. They didn't have that last year. So I don't think this offense is going to suffer in some major way because Taylor Gabriel is not a part of it. I think there's enough weapons here. I think the Bears can make do with what they have. Now, if they do want to explore the wide receiver market, like I mentioned, got a few extra $1 million now, maybe they could do that. I don't like the options available. Obviously, AB and Josh Gordon are really talented, but we know the red flags they come with. Paul Richardson, I think Ted Ginn's probably a better option. Maris Thomas, obviously Gabriel's still out there. They theoretically could bring him back, but I don't see that happening. So I think they're pretty set with what they've got. They're expecting more production out of the tight end position. And also, I think Montgomery and Tariq Cohen are going to catch a lot of passes out of the backfield. So I'm actually fine with what the Bears have at receiver. But what do you guys think? Should the Bears sign another wide receiver? Type Y for yes, type N for no. If I knew AB had his crap together, I'd explore it, but I'm just not convinced that's the case. Plus, he's expecting to get hit with a suspension if he does get signed. All right, quick training camp update before we sign off here on Chicago Bears Now. The NFL sent out a memo saying that all 32 teams must hold their training camps at their home practice facilities. This shouldn't be a surprise with the pandemic still ongoing somewhat. And a lot of you guys are probably wondering, what do you mean stay at home? Don't teams do that? Well, a lot of teams go to other practice facilities. Now, the Bears were going to stay at home at Hallis Hall anyway because they renovated. We'll show you some pictures here in a sec, but they had to cancel the joint practices with the Broncos. No official word on when training camps will start, but they will be at home at Hallis Hall. That was the expectation and the plan this year anyway. Here are a few photos I pulled a couple months ago when we did a story on the renovations. It's awesome. It looks really awesome. I don't know if fans will be able to attend like they normally can at some training camp practices. I would guess that's probably a no, which is a bit of a shame because I know a lot of you guys wanted to go check this out, but it's a sweet facility. I bet they'll stay there for years to come at training camp. So if you can't go this year, you'll probably be able to go next year. But that's the quick update there. Staying at home for training camp doesn't really affect the Bears because that was the plan. The only effect really is that they had to cancel the joint practices with the Denver Broncos. But we'll give you word as soon as we know when training camp's open. Hopefully it'll be just around the corner very, very soon.